The cold wind of Ganymede howled across the rocky surface as Dr. Hyun-woo Park stepped out of the research station airlock. His thick environmental suit made every movement slow and careful. The pale orange glow of Jupiter filled half the sky above him. Even after 3 years working on this frozen moon, he still felt small under that giant planet. Hyun-woo carried his sample collection kit in one gloved hand. Today was supposed to be routine. Walk 2 kilometers to the sulfur deposits, collect rock samples, test for microbial life, walk back, file his report, but nothing about today would be routine. The research station behind him looked tiny against the endless ice plains. Only 12 people lived in that metal box floating in space. Hyun-woo often wondered why he had volunteered for this assignment. Earth felt like a distant dream now, but someone had to do the work. Someone had to search for life in the cold places of the solar system. His boots crunched on the frozen ground as he walked toward the sulfur fields. The suit computer showed minus 180 degrees outside. Without the suit, he would freeze solid in seconds. Yet somehow life might exist here. Life always found a way to surprise him. Halfway to his destination, Hyun-woo saw something that should not exist. A splash of color moved against the gray rocks. He stopped walking and adjusted his helmet display. The thermal scanner showed a warm signature. Something was alive out here in the killing cold. Hyun-woo moved closer with careful steps. The shape became clearer. It was about the size of a house cat, but covered in what looked like crystal fur. The fur shifted colors from blue to silver to deep purple, beautiful and impossible. The creature lay curled against a large rock. It was not moving much. As Hyun-woo got closer, he could see it was breathing. Shallow, quick breaths that made small clouds of vapor in the thin atmosphere. The animal was dying. He knelt down slowly. The creature lifted its head toward him. Hyun-woo gasped at what he saw. The eyes were completely white. Not the healthy white of snow, but the sick white of blindness. Cataracts or some kind of damage had stolen this being's sight. The creature made a soft sound. Not quite a purr and not quite a song, something in between that touched Hyun-woo's heart. Despite being an alien from who knows where, this small being sounded like it was asking for help. Hyun-woo reached out one gloved hand. The creature did not run away. Instead, it pressed its head against his palm. The crystal fur felt warm even through his thick gloves. Colors rippled across its coat like waves on water. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. His mind raced with questions. How did this creature survive on Ganymede? Where did it come from? What species was it? But all those questions could wait. Right now, this small being needed help, and Hyun-woo was the only person who could give it. He activated his suit radio and called back to the station. Da-eun Kim. Her voice came through clearly. She was his research partner and the only person on Ganymede he truly trusted. I found something, Da-eun. Something incredible. What kind of something, Hyun-woo? You sound strange, an alien creature. It's alive but hurt. Blind, I think. I need to bring it back to the station. Silence filled the radio for several seconds. Then Da-eun's voice returned sharp with concern. Hyun-woo, you know the protocols. No alien organisms inside the station. Commander Choi will have you sent back to Earth. This creature is dying, Da-eun. Look, I'm sending you thermal images now. Hyun-woo used his helmet camera to capture several images of the small being. He uploaded them to the station's computer system. A few minutes later, Da-eun's voice returned. This time softer. Oh my God, Hyun-woo. What is that thing? It's beautiful, I don't know, but I can't leave it here to die. Help me figure out how to bring it inside safely. The creature in his arms made that soft musical sound again. Its head turned toward the research station even though its blind eyes could see nothing. Somehow it seemed to understand that safety lay in that direction. Hyun-woo made his decision. Science could be careful and slow. Compassion had to be fast and brave. He carefully picked up the small creature and held it against his chest. Through his suit, he could feel it shivering. The walk back to the station took forever. The creature grew heavier with each step, not because it weighed more, but because Hyun-woo worried it might die before he got it to safety. Several times he stopped to check that it was still breathing. At the station airlock, Da-eun waited for him with emergency medical supplies. She had also set up a quarantine area in the small laboratory. Her brown eyes were wide with excitement and worry. Commander Taehyun Choi stood beside her with his arms crossed. The station commander was not happy. Dr. Park, this is highly irregular. We have strict protocols about alien contact. Sir, with respect, those protocols were written for hostile situations. This creature needs medical help. Commander Choi looked at the small being in Hyunwoo's arms. The crystal fur had turned a pale blue color. Its breathing was getting weaker. How do we know it's not dangerous, Dr. Kim? Da-yoon stepped forward. Sir, I have been monitoring it with the external scanners. No signs of harmful bacteria or viruses. Its physiology appears similar to earth mammals in some ways. The creature made its musical sound again. Even Commander Choi seemed touched by the gentle noise. 48 hours, Dr. Park. If this thing shows any signs of being a threat, it goes back outside. Understood. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. In the laboratory, Hyunwoo placed the creature on a soft blanket Da-eun had prepared. Under the warm lights, its fur began to show more colors. Gold and silver threads ran through the crystal coat like veins of precious metal. The creature turned its blind face toward Hyunwoo and made a new sound, almost like a purr but with notes of music woven through it. Da-eun smiled. I think it's saying thank you. Hyunwoo gently stroked the soft fur. The creature leaned into his touch with complete trust. This small being had chosen to trust humans even though it had never met one before. That trust felt like the most precious gift in the universe. What should we call it? Da-eun, Hyunwoo thought for a moment. The creature seemed to glow with its own inner light despite its blindness. Like a star shining in the darkness, Bile. We will call it Bile. The creature seemed to approve of its new name. Its purring grew stronger and more musical. Colors danced across its fur in patterns that reminded Hyunwoo of aurora lights on Earth. Neither human knew they had just taken the first step toward changing the future of their entire species. 3 days had passed since Hyunwoo brought Buell into the research station. The small creature had grown stronger, but its eyes remained clouded with that milky white blindness. Da-eun had set up a comfortable area in the laboratory where Buell could rest and eat. The alien being had surprised them both with its intelligence. When they offered different foods, Buell would carefully smell each one before choosing. It preferred the protein bars over vegetables, but would not touch anything with artificial sweeteners. Somehow it knew what was good for its body. Buell had also learned to navigate the laboratory by sound and smell. It moved carefully but confidently around the equipment. When Hyunwoo or Da-eun entered the room, Buell would lift its head and make that musical purring sound. The creature clearly recognized each human by their footsteps. On the morning of the 4th day, Hyunwoo sat at his desk studying cell samples from Buell's fur under the microscope. What he saw amazed him. The crystal structure was unlike anything in Earth biology, but the underlying patterns reminded him of something familiar. Da-eun walked into the laboratory carrying a cup of coffee and a data tablet. She looked tired. She had been working late every night trying to understand Buell's physiology. Any luck with the eye tissue samples, Da-eun? She sat down heavily in the chair next to him. The damage is extensive, Hyunwoo. Whatever caused this blindness affected the entire optical system. But here's the strange part. She pulled up images on her tablet showing microscopic views of Buell's eye tissue. The structure is remarkably similar to Earth organisms. Look at these nerve pathways. They match patterns we see in dolphins and whales. Hyunwoo leaned closer to study the images. You are right. But how is that possible? Buell evolved on a completely different world. Unless Da-eun paused and looked thoughtful. Unless there are universal patterns in how vision develops, common solutions to the same problems. Buell made a soft chirping sound from its resting area. Both humans turned to look. The creature was awake and seemed to be listening to their conversation. Its blind eyes turned toward them with an almost hopeful expression. What caused the damage, Da-eun? Can you tell? Da-eun scrolled through more data on her tablet. The cellular structure shows signs of quantum radiation exposure, something far beyond normal background radiation. It burned out the optical receptors at the molecular level. Is there any way to repair it? Da-eun shook her head slowly. Not with our current medical technology. The damage goes too deep. We would need to regenerate entire sections of the optical system. Hyunwoo felt his heart sink. He had grown attached to the small creature over the past few days. Buell trusted him completely. It would curl up next to him when he worked and purr that musical sound. The idea that nothing could be done felt like failure. Wait a minute. Hyunwoo stood up suddenly. What about regenerative therapy? Not surgery, but chemical regeneration. What do you mean? Earth, ocean, water. Specifically, the deep ocean samples we have in storage. The mineral concentration from the Mariana Trench samples. Da-eun looked confused. Hyunwoo, I don't follow your thinking. Remember the studies on deep-sea organisms, how they repair cellular damage from extreme pressure and radiation? The unique mineral combinations that promote tissue regeneration. You want to try treating alien blindness with earth-ocean water. Not just ocean water, the concentrated mineral extracts. If Buell's optical system is similar to Earth organisms, then maybe Earth-healing compounds could work. Diane stared at him for a long moment. Hyunwoo, that is completely theoretical. We have no idea if it would help or harm Buell. But we know the current situation is hopeless. If we do nothing, Buell stays blind forever. If we try this treatment, the worst-case scenario is no change. Buell chirped again and moved closer to where the humans were talking. The creature pressed against Hyunwoo's leg and looked up with those clouded eyes, almost as if it understood they were discussing its future. Daeun looked at the small creature and then back at Hyunwoo. You really think this could work? I think it's worth trying. Buell deserves a chance to see again. The next several hours were spent in careful preparation. Daeun analyzed the Mariana Trench mineral samples, while Hyunwoo researched everything he could find about optical regeneration in Earth species. They worked late into the night developing a treatment protocol. The mineral solution had to be precisely balanced. Too strong and it could cause more damage. Too weak and it would have no effect. They decided to start with a very dilute concentration and gradually increase if Buell showed positive. Response: Commander Choi visited the laboratory the next morning and found both researchers looking exhausted but determined. How is our alien guest doing? Doctors, better physically, sir, but still blind. We want to try an experimental treatment. Commander Choi listened as they explained their plan. His expression grew more concerned with each detail. Doctors, this is highly experimental. What if something goes wrong? Sir Daeun spoke up. Buell has shown remarkable trust in us. This creature chose to let us help when it was dying. I think we owe it our best effort. The commander looked at Buell, who was resting peacefully on its blanket. The crystal fur caught the laboratory lights and threw tiny rainbows on the walls. Very well. But I want constant monitoring. Any sign of negative reaction and you stop immediately. Yes, sir. That afternoon they began the treatment. Hyunwoo held Buell gently while Daeun prepared the mineral solution. They had decided to apply the drops directly to the creature's eyes rather than inject them. The first application made Buell tense slightly. Then something remarkable happened. The crystal fur began to pulse with new colors. Waves of deep blue and silver ran from Buell's head down to its tail. The creature made a new sound they had never heard before. Not quite purring and not quite singing, but something beautiful. Is it working? Daeun whispered. Too early to tell, but Buell seems to like it. Over the following days, they continued the treatment twice daily. Each time Buell's reaction grew stronger. The color displays in its fur became more complex. Patterns of gold and emerald green joined the blue and silver waves. On the third day of treatment, something changed in Buell's behavior. The creature began turning its head toward light sources. When Hyunwoo moved around the laboratory, Buell's blind eyes seemed to track his movement. Daeun, I think it's working. She ran new scans of Buell's eye tissue. The results made her gasp with excitement. Hyunwoo, look at this. New cellular growth. The optical nerves are regenerating. They had taken the first step toward giving an alien creature the gift of sight. Neither human realized they were also taking the first step toward changing the destiny of both their species. Buell purred its musical song, and for the first time in days that song carried notes of hope. 1 week had passed since they started the mineral treatment. Buell now moved around the laboratory with much more confidence. The creature seemed to sense objects before touching them. Its head would turn toward sounds with perfect accuracy, but its eyes still held that cloudy whiteness. Hyunwoo sat at his desk early in the morning reviewing the latest test results. The cellular regeneration was progressing faster than they had hoped. New nerve pathways were forming in Buell's optical system, yet the visible signs of blindness remained unchanged. Daeun entered the laboratory carrying breakfast for both herself and Buell. The creature had developed a routine. It would eat first thing each morning, then spend time exploring its surroundings before the next treatment. Good morning, Buell, she said softly. The alien being lifted its head and made its musical greeting sound. But something was different this morning. Buell turned its face directly toward Daeun, even though she had entered very quietly. Its blind eyes seemed to focus on her face. Hyunwoo, did you see that? See what Daeun? Buell looked right at me. Not just turned toward my voice, but actually looked at my face. They both watched as Buell moved across the laboratory floor. The creature avoided obstacles with even more precision than before. When it reached the food bowl, Buell paused and looked up at both humans. For a moment, its cloudy eyes seemed less white. "I think today might be special," Hyunwoo said quietly. The morning treatment proceeded as usual. Hyunwoo held Buell gently while Da-eun prepared the mineral drops. They had increased the concentration slightly over the past few days as Buell showed positive responses. Da-eun applied the first drop to Buell's left eye. The creature remained perfectly still as it had learned to do during treatments. Then she applied a drop to the right eye. What happened next would stay with both humans for the rest of their lives. The cloudy whiteness in Buell's eyes began to clear like fog lifting from a lake. Starting from the center and spreading outward, the milky color faded away. Underneath were the most beautiful eyes either human had ever seen. Buell's irises were like looking into deep space. Swirls of silver and gold moved through fields of deep blue. Tiny points of light sparkled like distant stars. The pupils were larger than Earth animal eyes, but they contracted and expanded as Buell looked around the laboratory. Da-eun gasped and nearly dropped the medicine bottle. Hyunwoo felt tears running down his cheeks. They were witnessing something impossible becoming real. Buell blinked several times as if testing its new vision. Then those incredible eyes focused on Hyunwoo's face. The creature saw him clearly for the first time. What followed was the most beautiful display either human had ever witnessed. Buell's crystal fur exploded with colors. Brilliant gold spread from its head down its entire body. Silver threads wove through the gold like lightning. Waves of deep blue and emerald green pulsed in perfect rhythm. But the colors were only the beginning. Buell began to sing. The sound was nothing like its previous musical purring. This was a song of pure joy that seemed to come from the creature's very soul. The melody rose and fell like wind through mountain valleys. Harmonies layered upon harmonies until the laboratory filled with music more beautiful than any human orchestra. Hyunwoo reached out slowly and touched Buell's head. The creature leaned into his hand while its song continued. The crystal fur felt warm and seemed to vibrate with the music. Da-eun was crying openly now. She had dedicated her life to science, but this moment transcended everything she thought she knew about the universe. An alien being was sharing its joy at seeing the world again. The song gradually faded, but Buell continued to gaze at both humans with its star-filled eyes. Then something even more remarkable happened. Buell moved to the computer terminal in the corner of the laboratory. The creature placed one paw on the touchscreen. Immediately, the display lit up with complex patterns. Lines and curves appeared in 3 dimensions. Mathematical equations scrolled past faster than human eyes could follow. "Da-eun, what is it doing?" "I think Buell is trying to communicate with us through the computer." The patterns on the screen became more organized. Star charts appeared showing the local solar system. Then the view expanded to show nearby star systems. Points of light connected with curved lines that looked like navigation routes. Buell turned from the computer screen to look directly at Hyunwoo. Those galaxy deep eyes held an expression of urgency. The creature was trying to tell them something important. More patterns appeared on the screen. This time they showed mathematical calculations that Da-eun recognized as dimensional physics. Equations for faster-than-light travel. Formulas for bending space and time. "Hyunwoo, this is technology far beyond anything humans have developed. How does Buell know these things?" Buell left the computer and moved to the laboratory's main viewing window. Outside the window, Jupiter hung in the black sky surrounded by stars. The creature pressed against the glass and made a new sound. Not quite a song, but definitely a call. "It's trying to contact someone," Da-eun whispered, "or something." Buell began creating patterns on the fogged glass where its breath touched the window. The designs were similar to the star charts on the computer, but more detailed. Specific locations in space marked with symbols neither human could understand. Commander Choi chose that moment to visit the laboratory. He entered expecting to check on their alien patient and, instead, found Buell creating complex, mathematical diagrams on the window while its fur blazed with impossible colors. "Doctors, what in God's name is happening here?" Sir Buell can see again. "The treatment worked, but I think we have a much bigger situation developing." Commander Choi stared at the alien creature with its star-filled eyes and brilliant crystal fur. Buell turned toward him and made a gentle greeting sound, but the urgency remained in its expression. "Sir, I think Buell is trying to tell us that someone is coming to find it. Coming here, to our station." Buell returned to the computer and brought up the star charts again. This time it highlighted a specific trajectory leading directly toward Jupiter. The calculations showed something large moving through space toward their location. How long until whatever it is arrives here, Dayun? According to these calculations, less than 3 days, sir. Commander. Choi looked from the computer display to Buell and back again. The small creature that had seemed like a simple animal needing help was clearly much more than they had imagined. I need to contact Earth Command immediately. We may be about to experience first contact with an alien civilization. Buell sang softly and its fur pulsed with gentle gold light. The creature seemed pleased that the humans finally understood its message. Help was coming, but whether that help would be friendly remained to be seen. Outside the laboratory window, Jupiter continued its eternal rotation, unaware that the small research station orbiting its moon was about to become the most important location in human history. 2 days had passed since Buell regained its sight. The research station buzzed with activity as Commander Choi prepared for possible first contact. Every person on the station now knew about their alien visitor and the approaching ship. Ji-hoon Lee sat at the communications console working frantically to establish contact with the incoming vessel. The ship was massive according to their sensors, nearly 2 kilometers long and unlike any design in human databases. Hyunwoo stayed close to Buell in the laboratory. The creature had become more active since regaining its sight, but also more anxious. Its fur constantly shifted between colors, showing what seemed like worry and hope mixed together. Any success with communications, Ji-hoon Da-eun asked as she entered the control room. Nothing yet. I have tried every frequency we know. Radio waves, microwaves, even light pulses. Either they cannot hear us or they are choosing not to respond. Commander Choi studied the sensor displays showing the approaching ship. At current speed, it would reach Jupiter in 18 hours. Still no indication if the visitors were friendly or hostile. Keep trying, Ji-hoon. We need to establish contact before they arrive. Buell appeared in the doorway of the control room, moving carefully on its small legs. Since regaining sight, the creature had shown intense interest in the sensor displays. Those galaxy-deep eyes would track the movement of the approaching ship with clear understanding. The alien being approached Ji-hoon's communication console and placed one paw on the keyboard. Immediately the screen filled, with the same complex mathematical patterns they had seen before. Buell, what are you trying to tell us? Hyunwoo asked. Gently, the creature looked up at him and made a series of soft musical sounds, different tones and rhythms that almost seemed like language. Then Buell returned to the keyboard and created a new pattern on the screen. This time the display showed harmonic frequencies, wave patterns that looked like sound converted to visual form. Buell was showing them how to communicate with the approaching ship. Ji-hoon, I think Buell wants you to transmit these frequency patterns. The communications officer looked skeptical, but programmed the patterns into his equipment. He broadcast them toward the approaching vessel and waited. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the communication console erupted with response signals. Complex mathematical sequences flowed across the screen. The same type of patterns Buell had been creating. We have contact, Commander Choi announced to the entire station. Over the next few hours, a primitive form of communication developed. The alien ship sent mathematical concepts and Ji-hoon responded with human mathematics. Slowly, a basic understanding emerged. The ship belonged to a species that called themselves the Veltar. They were ancient space travelers who had been exploring the galaxy for thousands of years. Most importantly, they had been searching for something they had lost. Da-eun worked alongside Ji-hoon to decode the messages. Her background in biochemistry helped her understand some of the biological concepts the Veltar were transmitting. I think they are asking about Buell, she said after studying the latest transmission. These symbols keep appearing alongside biological data that matches our scans of Buell. The next message from the Veltar ship contained visual data. Images appeared on the screen showing creatures identical to Buell. The same crystal fur and star-filled eyes. Text appeared alongside the images in a script that slowly resolved into broken human language. Navigation symbiont lost in space storm. Searching many cycles. Is small one safe? Commander Choi looked at Buell, who was watching the screen intently. The creature seemed to recognize the images of its own species. Send them this message, Ji-hoon. Small one is safe and healthy. Restored vision with Earth medicine. Request peaceful meeting. The response came quickly. Profound gratitude. Harmony of Stars request docking permission. Captain Silthera wishes meeting with healers of Lost One. Permission granted. Welcome to Jupiter System, friends. 12 hours later, the massive alien ship Harmony of Stars docked with the research station. The size difference was incredible. The human station looked like a tiny insect next to the elegant curves of the Veltar vessel. The docking bay doors opened, and the first aliens humans had ever met walked into the station. Captain Silthara was nearly 8 feet tall with translucent skin that seemed to glow with inner light. She had 4 arms and moved with fluid grace. Her large eyes were similar to Buell's, but silver instead of the deep space colors. Behind her came 3 other Veltar, each carrying what looked like advanced scientific equipment. They moved slowly and carefully, as if afraid of frightening the humans. Captain Silthara stopped in front of Commander Choi and spoke in heavily, accented but understandable English. "Greetings, humans of Jupiter Station. I am Captain Silthara of exploration vessel Harmony of Stars. We come in peace and great gratitude." "Welcome, Captain. I am Commander Choi. These are the doctors who saved your navigation symbiont." Biol ran across the docking bay toward the Veltar delegation. Its crystal fur blazed with brilliant gold and silver colors. Captain Silthara knelt down and Buell leapt into her 4 arms. The reunion was beautiful and sad at the same time. Captain Silthara held Buell close while tears that looked like liquid starlight ran down her face. She spoke to the small creature in musical tones similar to Buell's own sounds. After several minutes, she looked up at the humans with profound gratitude in her silver eyes. "You have returned. Sight to one who guides ships between stars. This gift cannot be repaid with mere words or materials." Hyunwoo stepped forward. "Captain, we were happy to help. Buell is a remarkable being, but we are curious. How did it come to be lost on Ganymede?" Captain Silthara's expression grew sad. She set Biol down gently and stood to face the humans. "There was accident in hyperspace. Storm of twisted reality scattered our exploration fleet across many star systems. We believed navigation symbiont Biol was killed in the disaster. Along with its bonded partner, navigator Keth Moore Daun looked confused." "Bonded partner? Navigation symbionts do not work alone, human healer. They bond with Veltar navigator for many centuries. 2 minds working as one to calculate paths through folded space. Without bonded partner, navigation symbiont cannot fulfill its purpose." Beale made urgent musical sounds and ran back to the communication console. It began creating the familiar star charts on the screen, but this time highlighting a specific star system. Captain Silthara studied the display and gasped. She spoke rapidly to her crew members in their own language. Then she turned back to the humans with excitement and fear mixed in her expression. "Navigator Kethmore may still live. Buell shows location in Proxima Centauri system, but that world is hostile. We calculated rescue mission success at only 12.7%. Too dangerous to attempt." Buell sang loudly and its fur flared with desperate colors. The small creature was begging its own people to attempt a rescue, but the Veltar had already decided the mission was impossible. They had found Buell, and that would have to be enough. Sometimes hope was not sufficient to overcome mathematics. The humans looked at each other with growing understanding. They were about to learn that some species in the galaxy had forgotten how to take chances on impossible odds. The meeting continued in the station's main conference room. Captain Silthara sat gracefully in a chair modified to accommodate her 4 arms and tall frame. Biol rested on the table between the humans and Veltar, creating soft musical sounds that seemed to plead for understanding. Commander Choi leaned forward with curiosity, evident in his voice. "Captain, can you explain more about these navigation symbionts? We want to understand Biol's true nature." Captain Silthara touched Buell gently with one of her long fingers. The small creature pressed against her hand, but its galaxy-deep eyes kept looking toward the star charts on the wall display. "Navigation symbionts are rarest of our people," she began. "Only 12 exist in all the galaxy. They are living computers capable of calculating hyperspace routes across impossible distances. Without them, Veltar could never have become spacefaring civilization." Dayun looked fascinated. "So Buell is not just intelligent. It is essential to your space travel. More than essential, human healer. Buell and others like it are the reason my people survive. We spread across many worlds because navigation symbionts can find safe paths through the chaos of folded space." Hyunwoo studied Biol's expressive eyes. "But why do they need bonded partners? The mathematics of hyperspace travel are too complex for single mind to process, Captain Silthera explained. Navigation Symbiont provides intuitive understanding of spacetime, while Veltar Navigator provides logical framework. Together they create perfect partnership. Beul chirped sadly and pointed toward the display showing the Proxima Centauri system. The creature's distress was obvious to everyone in the room. Captain Silthera followed Beul's gaze and sighed deeply. Navigator Kethmore was bonded to Beul for over 300 years. They were perfect team. When hyperspace storms scattered our fleet, we believed both were lost forever. But Kethmore might still be alive, Jihoon asked. Beul believes this? Yes. Navigation symbionts have connection to their bonded partners that transcends normal space. If Kethmore were dead, Beul would know with certainty. Then why not attempt to rescue, Commander Choi asked. Captain Silthera's silver eyes grew sad. The world where our calculations place Kethmore is extremely dangerous. Hostile environment, toxic atmosphere, and predatory life forms. We estimate only 12.7% chance of successful rescue mission. 12% is still a chance, Daun pointed out. For human, perhaps. But Veltar have learned over millennia that some risks are too great. We cannot risk more lives on uncertain probability. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Beul made soft pleading sounds and its crystal fur flickered between hope and despair. Hyunwoo looked at his colleagues and then at the alien captain. Captain, what if humans volunteered to help with the rescue mission? Captain Silthera stared at him with surprise. You would risk your lives for a stranger you have never met. Humans have a history of attempting impossible rescues. Commander Choi said quietly. Sometimes we succeed by refusing to accept that something cannot be done. The Veltar captain was silent for several long minutes. Her crew members spoke to her in their musical language with tones that sounded like concern and disagreement. Finally, she looked back at the humans. Your species has gift that Veltar lost long ago. You still have hope and face of poor odds. We have become too cautious in our long lives. Beul jumped down from the table and ran to Hyunwoo. The small creature climbed into his lap and looked up with those star-filled eyes. Its message was clear. Please help save my bonded partner. What would this rescue mission involve? Hyunwoo asked. Captain Silthera activated a holographic display that showed the hostile world where Kethmore was believed to be stranded. The planet looked like a nightmare of red storms and jagged mountains. World designation Kepler 442c. High-gravity toxic methane atmosphere and indigenous life forms that are extremely aggressive. Kethmore's survival depends on finding shelter in underground cavern systems. How would we find one person on an entire planet? Dayun asked. Not person. Navigator Kethmore is like Beul but larger. Size of Earth wolf with similar crystal fur. More importantly, navigation symbionts can sense each other across great distances. Beul would guide rescue team to exact location. So Beul would have to come with us on this dangerous mission, Jihoon realized. Yes. And that is additional risk we cannot accept. If Beul is lost, then Veltar lose navigation symbiont forever. Commander Choi stood and walked to the large viewing window showing Jupiter and the stars beyond. The weight of decision was enormous. Commit humans to dangerous rescue mission for alien they had never met. Risk the life of Beul, who had already been saved once. But as he looked at the small creature clinging to Hyunwoo, he realized the decision was not really his to make. Beul, what do you want us to do? The navigation symbiont looked around the room at all the faces watching it, human and Veltar alike waiting for its choice. Beul had been given the gift of sight through human compassion. Now it had the chance to save its bonded partner through human courage. Beul stood on Hyunwoo's lap and sang a complex melody that brought tears to every eye in the room. The song spoke of love that transcends species, of bonds that survive across impossible distances, of hope that refuses to accept defeat. When the song ended, Beul looked directly at Captain Silthera and made a series of definitive musical statements. The Veltar captain translated with surprise in her voice. Beul says it will go with human rescue team. It says humans proved they do not abandon those in need. It trusts human determination more than Veltar calculations. The small creature then turned to Hyunwoo, Tabyun and Commander Choi. Its star-deep eyes held gratitude and absolute trust. Daeyeon wiped tears from her cheeks. Then I guess we are going on a rescue mission. Captain Silthera looked amazed. You would truly risk everything for navigation symbiont you barely know, and bonded partner you have never met. Commander Choi returned to the table and sat down with determination written on his face. Captain, our species may not have advanced technology like yours, but we have something that might be even more valuable. We never learned when to give up. Biol purred its musical approval, and its crystal fur blazed with brilliant gold light. The small creature that had been rescued from blindness on a frozen moon was about to lead its rescuers on a mission to save the most important being in its universe. That outside the conference room window, the harmony of stars prepared for a journey that would test whether human stubbornness could overcome impossible odds in the hostile depths of space. The rescue mission would begin at dawn. The joint rescue mission launched 3 days later. The harmony of stars had been equipped with human determination and Veltar technology. Hyunwoo Dayun and Commander Choi wore specially designed environmental suits that could survive the toxic atmosphere of Kepler. Traveled in a protective carrier that allowed it to see outside while keeping it safe from the hostile environment they were approaching. The small creature had been excited since departure, constantly creating star charts and navigation data that helped the Veltar pilots find the fastest route through hyperspace. Captain Silthera stood on the bridge watching the swirling colors of hyperspace flow past the ship. She had lived for over 800 years but had never attempted anything this dangerous for odds this poor. Human Commander Choi, she said, I must ask why your species is willing to risk so much for strangers. Commander Choi looked out at the impossible beauty of folded space. Captain, on Earth we have a saying, no one gets left behind. It does not matter if you are human or alien or something else entirely. If someone needs help, we try to help them. Even when mathematics shows failure is most likely outcome. Especially then. Anyone can succeed when odds are good, Captain. Real character shows when you try anyway, despite bad odds. Captain Silthera was quiet for several minutes. Then she spoke with something like wonder in her voice. Veltar have forgotten this wisdom. We calculate probabilities and choose only safe paths. Perhaps this is why we have stopped growing as a civilization. The ship dropped out of hyperspace. Near the hostile world of Kepler 442c, the planet looked even worse in person than in the holographic displays. Massive red storms covered half the surface. The atmosphere was thick with poisonous gases that would kill most life forms in minutes. Biol became extremely agitated as they approached. The creature's crystal fur shifted rapidly between bright colors and its musical sounds grew urgent. It was sensing its bonded partner somewhere on that nightmare world. Dayun studied the biological readings from the planet's surface. How did Kethmore survive down there for so long? Navigation symbionts are remarkably adaptable, Captain Silthera explained. They can slow their metabolism and survive in conditions that would kill normal beings. But not forever. The landing party consisted of Hyunwoo Daun, Commander Choi, and 2 Veltar warriors named Velkan and Silmore. They descended through the poisonous atmosphere in a heavily shielded shuttle, while Buell guided them toward its bonded partners. Location: the surface of Kepler 442c was a wasteland of jagged rocks and methane geysers. Visibility was limited by the thick atmosphere and strange electrical storms that made their instruments unreliable. Biol directed them toward a series of cave systems in the largest mountain range. The small creature pressed against the carrier window, making urgent sounds as they got closer to the target area. The caves were deep and twisted. The rescue team used powerful lights to navigate the dark passages while Buell called out with complex musical patterns. They were trying to signal Kethmore that help had arrived. After 2 hours of careful exploration, they found evidence of habitation. Scratches on cave walls that formed geometric patterns, areas where someone had created shelters from fallen rocks. Most importantly, tracks in the cave floor that matched the size and shape expected for a navigation symbiont. Biol suddenly became very excited and sang loudly. The echoes of its voice bounced through the cave system, creating a complex harmony. From deep in the caves, an answering song replied. The sound was similar to Biol's music, but deeper and more complex. It spoke of long loneliness and desperate hope. The bonded partners were calling to each other across the darkness. The rescue team followed Biol's guidance deeper into the mountain. The caves became more treacherous, but the musical communication between the navigation symbionts grew stronger. Finally, they reached a large underground chamber lit by phosphorescent crystals in the walls. In the center of the chamber, huddled against a pile of rocks, was the most beautiful creature Hyunwoo had ever seen after Buell. Kethmore was indeed the size of a large earth wolf, but with the same crystalline fur as Buell. Its coat had dulled from long hardship, but still showed traces of magnificent colors. Most remarkably, its eyes held the same star-deep quality as its bonded partner. When Kethmore saw Buell, the reunion was beyond anything the humans could have imagined. Both creatures sang together in perfect harmony, while their fur blazed with synchronized colors. They touched foreheads, and the crystal patterns in their coats created swirling designs that seemed to tell the story of their separation and joy at reunion. Commander Choi watched the reunion and felt tears in his eyes. No mathematical calculation could capture the value of this moment. Some things were beyond the reach of probability and statistics. The return journey to the harmony of stars went smoothly. Kethmore was weak from long isolation but recovered quickly once reunited with Buell. The two navigation symbionts worked together to plot an even faster route back to Jupiter. The bridge captain Silthera watched her navigation team work with their restored partners. The efficiency was remarkable. Calculations that normally took hours were completed in minutes, but more than efficiency had been restored. The entire crew seemed lighter and more hopeful. They had witnessed the impossible become possible through human determination. Human Dayun Captain Silthara said as they approached Jupiter. Your species has given us more than the return of our navigation symbionts. You have reminded us that some things are worth attempting even when success seems impossible. Dayun smiled as she watched Buell and Kethmore creating beautiful music together. We learned something too, Captain. The universe is much more wonderful when you have friends to share it with. The mission had succeeded beyond all expectations. Not only had they rescued Kethmore, but they had forged the first alliance between humans and an advanced alien civilization. 6 months later, the research station on Ganymede had been expanded into a joint human Veltar facility. Scientists from both species worked together, sharing knowledge and technology. Hyunwoo had become humanity's first interspecies medical ambassador, while Daeun led joint research projects that were revolutionizing both civilizations. Buell and Kethmore served as cultural ambassadors, helping humans and Veltar understand each other. The small creature that had been found blind and dying on a frozen moon had become the bridge between two species reaching for the stars together. Commander Choi stood in his new office watching Earth rise over Jupiter's horizon. On his desk sat a small crystal sculpture that Buell had created for him. When light hit it the right way, it showed the image of that first moment when human compassion met alien need. The gift had come with a simple message from Buell. Thank you for proving that 12% chance is enough when you refuse to give up. Outside his window, human and Veltar ships worked together preparing for the next phase of exploration. Humanity had joined the galactic community not through conquest or superior technology, but through the simple act of refusing to abandon someone in need. The universe had become a smaller, friendlier place. All because a human doctor decided that no creature should suffer alone in the darkness when there was still hope for healing. In the end, that hope had restored more than just sight. It had restored faith in the power of compassion to bridge any distance between minds and hearts, reaching toward the light.